Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley, this is Faithful Rattos, and today's video is my red flags when it comes to breeders and being able to differentiate a ethical breeder from a not so ethical breeder. Now, not everybody who has any of these red flags would necessarily be a unethical breeder, but I think the presence of multiple of these would give me a bit of unsurety, uncertainty about getting from this breeder. This is Coram. He was from a wonderful ethical breed called Rainmaker Rattery. If you're in the Midlands, especially in the Derby, how do you say that word? Derby area, I really recommend her. She's absolutely wonderful. She actually has a litter in the nest right now, and they are adorable. In the litter there, Siamese Wheaten and Sable Wheaten, and they're so freaking cute. There's things going on behind me. That tail's whacking me. Hi Cade, do you want to say hi? This is Cade. He's a good boy. Yes, you are. You're a good boy. As I said, not every rattery or breeder who has these red flags would necessarily be an unethical breeder, but if there's multiple of these red flags, that would, catch my eye. So the first couple is about their homing out process. So if they are homing out rats who are clearly too young to be homed out, 6 weeks is the minimum, the youngest that I would accept, but there's conditions for that being an acceptable age. They have to be out of their kitten coat and they have to be mature enough to handle that transition. So for example, Coram and Akatosh, when they came to us, they were 7 weeks old, but their line is pretty mature and they were fully out of their kitten coats and in a more adult-like state. Obviously not adults, they're still kittens at the time. The other thing is homing out either more or less than what you planned to have, and also homing out in less than pairs. Pairs is the absolute bare minimum. I would prefer my breeder to home out usually in trios, because we had an awful situation where we lost one of our babies a week after we got him, and if I only had 2 babies at the time, that would have had a disaster, because babies need same age company just as much as rats in general need company. Same age company and a couple of same age rats is very vital in their social development and learning how to play and learning how to properly interact, and also giving the older rats in your group a break so that it's not so, in your face. Imagine, being an 18-year-old having to spend time with a toddler and the toddler not having same age company. That's sort of the vibe. Also, with the homing out process, if they're not asking you extensive questions about what your care will be, that is a red flag, because they don't care what's going on there. Another homing out process sort of red flag is if they're breeding feeder and pets. No, because if they're breeding feeder, they are likely not caring about genetics and they're just breeding pets that they think are cute and they're not fully into the genetics. Also, a breeder who doesn't know the appropriate varieties of the kittens that they're homing out is a red flag, because breeders should be very clued up. Oh god, Coram. Breeders should be very clued up in genetics and knowing exactly what genetics are present in their lines, knowing about the recessive genes in their lines, knowing about the health issues in their lines and working to breed them out. And if a breeder doesn't know simply what varieties they are breeding, huge red flag. Because a breeder, that should be the paramount. A breeder should know what their goal is and should know what they're breeding towards. So if I take, for example, Coram and Akatosh's breeder, she breeds for Burmese and Russian Burmese, and so in her litter she gets related varieties like Siamese, Wheaten and Sable. But if she didn't know what a Siamese was, that would be concerning, because that is a related variety to her goal. And breeders who don't know what varieties they're breeding and don't know what the varieties of the rats they have in their litter, that's a red flag to me. Another red flag is if they're shady about showing you their setup, because what do they have to hide? That doesn't necessarily mean letting potential homes personally into their house or into their rat room, but it does mean showing them their setups in pictures or in videos or a video call, something along those lines. And if they're not showing that, boys, naughty boys, if they're not showing that, that's a red flag to me. Another big red flag is a breeder that feeds nuggets or pellets or lab locks. Cade, yes, that is the air purifier you're sat on, because that is not the optimum diet for a rat, and I would hope that a breeder was taking more care into the diet of their animals that they're breeding, and not just throwing some manufactured pellet at them and thinking that suffices. Another red flag is a breeder that is selling or advertising their animals on sites like Gumtree and Pet Finder and Pets for Homes, because those sites are rife with unethical breeders. And I'm not saying every breeder on those sites are unethical. That would be crazy, because there are some ethical breeders that use those websites, but if you're looking on those websites, you have to be extra careful. Some other red flags including not wanting to be an active member in fancy and talking badly about people who are active in the fancy and the rat clubs in general, because an ethical breeder wants to be involved in the fancy, wants to be up to date on information, and wants to be continually educating themselves on rat care standards that are improving and any other sort of like things going on in the rat world. And a breeder who is distancing themselves from that community and that wealth of knowledge is a red flag. Similar to some that I mentioned earlier is breeders who have multiple varieties available, and breeders who breed from rats who have mystery lineage, because you never know what genetic conditions may pop up and arise out of that, and it's something that can cause a lot of problems going on from that. Then there's also the standard breeders who breed unethical varieties, specifically in the UK, hairless, Manx, Harley, some other one, black-eyed white. So yeah, be wary of that. A breeder who is breeding multiple varieties, and not necessarily multiple varieties, multiple unrelated varieties, unethical varieties, and breeding from rats they don't know the genetics of. I think that really sums up quite a lot of the red flags. If you have any more questions, do let me know down below. And remember that not every single breeder who has one or a couple of these red flags is an unethical breeder. But if you're seeing a lot of these red flags in a breeder that you have purchased from or are considering purchasing from, then it might be time to reconsider and look a bit more into their practices, because the presence of multiple red flags at the same time is a cause for concern. So if you're a breeder and you do one of these things, I'm not saying you're a bad person or a bad breeder, but if there's multiple things like this going on with a breeder, then it's time to reconsider. Alright, thank you for watching. Hope to see you in the next video, and see you later.